A very quick yes or no. Can the budget 7.3 trillion naira deliver recovery and growth as President Buhari puts it? And the budget minister explained it. We're still breaking down the budget breakdown. Let's start with Femi Awuyemi, who is a financial analyst and chief executive at ProShare Nigeria. 5 of the guests here in the studio, and we're taking a very quick poll. Yes or no? Femi Awuyemi, do you think this can deliver growth and recovery?
There is no correlation between the expectation of growth and the 2017 budget. In actual, you may want to ask, if you assume we are practicing a zero-based budgeting, what is the significant difference from the 2016 budget with that of the 2017 budget? Just like BJ has said, you're actually in a worse position if you take a look at it. There's really nothing beyond just maintaining status quo. 5 trillion on recurrent, 2 trillion on capex, which is about 7 billion from an infrastructure gap of $360 billion. We are basically trying to just halt the slide. And that's what the 2017 is all about. Just stop the bleeding. Yet, if you look at the assumptions upon which you were based, which the panelists talk about, oil price, production, most of these factors are beyond the control of the federal government in itself. And as such, you are more or less drawing up a wish list rather than an actual one. If you ask the question, which nobody has bothered to ask or specify really, is where is 2016 performance? And well, anyway, let me allow others.
Okay, I think, thank you very much, Femi Awuyemi. Dolapo only gives us a quick one on can this budget deliver recovery and growth? A yes or no?
I say no as well. I think essentially this budget should aim at trying to stem the slide. And that's why
that's a matter of courage. Stop the hemorrhage. Bismarck Rawani at one point says the economy had an accident and is on its way to an intensive care unit. So let's get your view. Johnson Chukwu, Assistant Chief Executive Officer at Carrier Asset Management. Do you agree that we're still not yet at the doorstep of recovery? Now we have to stem the slide first. We move from an intensive care unit before we get to the outpatient unit.
Well, my concern is actually that beyond the issue of a expansionary budget which the government has adopted, we also need to look at what's happening in the private sector. The government has made provision of 100 billion monthly borrowing in the budget, local currency borrowing. That will further constrain the level of liquidity in the economy. And today, the private sector is actually in intensive care as well. So the government alone will not be able to spur the growth we require. You need to also look at the policies that affect the private sector so that we also have growth in the private sector. Otherwise, we're not going to see the recovery we all expect.
In other words, Johnson Chukwu, you say that this looks like a federal government of Nigeria's budget. We need to have something that is including the rest of the economy, 160 million people. Thank you for that contribution. Let's move on to Robert Today, the head of research at Afrinvest. What's your take? Can this deliver growth and recovery next year?
Unfortunately, no. And the reason is because if you look at the assumptions, I think it was Mr. Awuyemi that was talking about looking at the basic assumptions for which the 2017 budget is based. If you look at the level of performance for 2016 and you compare most of the sources of revenue from the independent sources, the surpluses from MDAs, and other assumptions that have been put in this 2017 budget are things that call for questioning. And if you look at even the assumption that the government could approach the capital market, that is currently being put to test. The reason is because the monetary policy hand has been tightening and the liquidity mop-ups have been putting rates at very unsustainably high level, at the money market end, to the extent that the bond auctions are hardly successful. The last one that was issued, we saw that even the federal government could not do most of those auctions. So these are things that call for the government. I mean, it was said in the budget that they were going to focus on the harmony between fiscal, monetary, and trade policy. I think that is the major thing that we should be discussing. I think the government does not have the capacity to be able to expand a 7 trillion naira budget, looking at the level of their revenue. Monetary financing has been done largely in 2016, and I hope that is not what the government is trying to do in 2017.
Robert, thank you very much. Of course, that's a very quite interesting point you noted there. The last primary market auction from the central bank, about almost 60 billion was unsubscribed. The DMO for the first time also came in about 45 billion under subscription. Is the market, the local investors getting tired of the government over-borrowing from the local system? Omotola Abimbola is a part of the research team from Afrinvest. Give us about a minute on this. What's your vote? Can this budget deliver recovery and growth?
Thank you, boss. I would say it won't be enough. Even if you assume that they're able to completely expend 7.2 trillion, if you look at the structure of the Nigerian economy, government expenditure makes up less than 6% of GDP. So even if government decides to spend more, it will add less than 1% to GDP growth. So you need a household to be confident enough to spend more. You need private individuals to be confident enough, to spend more in the economy. So I would say that what the economy needs most is investor confidence, not really, expansionary budgets.
Thank you. We'll explain those points that you've made. Thank you very much, our audience. But let's go back to the panel of 5. But this time we're starting from Professor Amaechi. You've listened to the guests who are part of this conversation, who've made some comments. What's your view from the UK? Do you think this budget can deliver recovery and growth? Is that a yes or a no for you?
I'll be very cautious with an answer because one thing that we often miss is to look at the impacts of previous budgets. So we have numbers every year, but we pay little attention to identifying the exact impacts of those budgets. So if I look at the 2016 budget, for example, which is still in progress, it is quite difficult to come to a view. And I'm carefully suspicious that this particular budget may not take us where we want to be, but it's a step in the right direction. But without an impact analysis, without a base, it is quite difficult to suggest one way or the other that it will be the budget that will take us to where we want to be.
Thank you, Professor Amaechi. And we'll go across over to Abuja, where our studios is located. Professor Adeniyi, is this a yes or a no for you? Do you think this budget can deliver recovery and growth?
Yeah, many thanks, Basin, and I'm afraid I'm going to disagree with my fellow panelists. I think yes, because we've been in the doldrum, and it took time for us to get to this stage, and we have to also we have to be painstaking in trying to get us out. The 2017 budget, like the 2016, are actually steps in the right direction. But the only problem, like I argued earlier, is one of implementation. How ready are we, to implement? Yes, the president might be ready. The president might be determined, as we have been hearing through his body language. What about his lieutenants, his top lieutenants? What about the octopodal ministries, departments, and agencies? How ready are they? Are we sure that the entire gamut of the public service are galvanized enough to join the president in ensuring that there is proper and above average implementation? If we can get this done, I think it's a step in the right direction, like my colleague Professor Abechi said, and I want to be positive about it, to say yes, in disagreement with my colleagues on the other side.
Well, someone says,
I do respect this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Doctor said economists always disagree, and who was the U.S. president that says, I hope I have two economists, because one will always say yes, the other will say no. So I wish I have an economist, an advisor that just only one hand. Now, let's get back into the studios here where three of the panel are seated. Shoaibu, Idris, is this a yes or a no for you as far as the budget's concerned, recovery and growth?
I will disagree with Adeni. I think it's a capital no, not just an ordinary no. And the issues are very, very clear. We are already in recession, minus 2.2. The very best you are in GDP contraction. The very best you can hope to achieve, even if all the assumptions were right, is to probably get a stabilization, but not a growth.
Okay, so thank you very much for putting that in the box for us. Let's have your view. Olio Bayomi.
Okay, from my own side, I think we could potentially recover, and that's about the best that we can accomplish. From the point of view of the fact that as of Q3, the actual GDP rate was minus 1.55. Okay,
minus 2.26.
Okay, minus 2.26. Yeah. No, I think actual to Q3. Q3 was 2.24.
Yes.
Okay, actual to end of Q3 is 1.55%. Yes. Meaning that for us to really recover, then we have to be able to level that up to 0. I think this budget can move up to that level. Now, whether I would then achieve the growth, I really don't think the kind of growth that we expect.
Thanks for
now,
please go ahead.
Yeah, is that everything seems to be public sector driven. When you read the budget, the factors and forces that will unleash the power of the private sector really are practically absent. Liberalization and deregulation. Those two things, if you miss them, we're not going to leapfrog, out of this recession.
Bismarck Rawani, now summarize this for us. It looks like a double turbo engine recovery and growth from an economy that you said, two different things entirely. The president is highly ambitious, and that has been said. Well, you can't blame him what he has on his hand to deal with. But again, if you put these two pillars together, we have to recover, then you have to grow from a major fall in which you had an accident, not you, Mr. Rwanda, but the economy I'm referring. Sorry, apologies for that. So put this together, recovery on one hand versus growth, or plus growth.
First of all, you can grow, right, without recovering, okay? So economic growth is quite distinct from recovery from a recession. The budget will not answer this question. The budget is necessary, but it's not sufficient to answer this question. So the question of yes or no doesn't even arise. So let's first break it down and say, what does it take to recover from this from the recession? And what does it take to grow and grow sustainably on an accelerated basis? Okay? So unfortunately, it's not a no or a yes. It is what quantum, what impact, and what the ideological slant. So when you take this time, you ask yourself, $24 billion is only 5% of the GDP. What China did over a period of 15 to 20 years was to spend minimum of 12 to 15% of its budget, of its GDP on infrastructure alone. You are saying the total spend is 5% of your GDP. It's a small amount.
5% of about $350 billion.
It's nothing. It's, it's a drop in the bucket. It sounds good in Naira terms, but that's just cosmetic. Secondly, your debt service as a percentage of your independent revenue is 34%. That means that 34 kobo in every Naira is going to be spent paying interest. And what the guy from AfroInvest said was that, look, the monetary policy is contractionary. You're having a risk-free rate at which the federal government of Nigeria is borrowing at effectively 21, 22% per annum. So if that's the risk-free rate, corporates are going to be borrowing at 25, 26, 27. There's no way you can invest in infrastructure at the private sector. There's no way. And this is going to increase the NPLs in the banks and put the banking system into complete confusion. So the monetary policy has to be accommodative, and interest rates have to come down. If not, there's no way you're going to get anywhere. Thirdly, and most important, is that a forex market that is in disequilibrium, that is inefficient, is not going to give anybody any confidence. So that divergence, what you have is an exchange rate and not a foreign exchange market. Everybody talks about what's the rate, 500. What is the market? Is the market liquid? Is it transparent? Is there effective supply? Does it mean that at 305 I should be able to get as many dollars? Today's headline of The Guardian says airlines are going to stop doing this. There's no foreign exchange supply, effective supply at 305. Something must happen to the foreign exchange market and the way it's structured and the way it is being implemented, or else all of these other things are not going to happen. Yeah. That is the reality.